All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. First episode of Teen Faith Unleashed. We got Myles Sharp. I'm Myles Sharp.
We got Tre Copeland.
We got Kaiden Dettmer here.
And I guess to start off, we'll talk about what this podcast is going to look like. So what's the main point of this podcast, guys?
We're kind of just here to, talk about faith, especially among, teens, as we are, as a lot of people are. Just kind of talk about God, talk about Christianity, ask some questions. Who knows where it'll go.
Yeah.
Good chance for us to get together and talk.
Yeah.
And also to inform other people
Yeah.
about what we talked about.
Yeah.
About God.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So I guess we can talk about our D group now. So we got this group at our church. It's full of teens ranging from, we have a couple of middle schoolers, right? One or two. And it's about, we've had at most 16, 17, kind of sitting around 10. But just a group of us. So we have a lesson and we do smaller groups and we just talk about God and we make relationships that way. So we're kind of using this podcast as an opportunity for them to hear our perspective on things and learn more through this as we learn, and using it in a way that can reach others about God and what he means to us in our lives.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty cool. Typically, when I tell adults, the only thing I've ever heard back is so much, oh, that's so cool what you guys do and everything, how it's just teens and not a lot of adult interaction. It was ran by us, managed by us, and kind of build it up on our own. Like I said, yeah, we don't really know where it's going to go yet, but been through a rough spot lately, but we'll get into that later, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get into that part. There's a big story, big God moment, and
big
all
story
that
just happened there.
So what has kind of helped you the most out of this D group? What have you seen through this, both of you?
I would say for me personally, it's realizing that some of the troubles or problems that I deal with, it's realizing that other people deal with. Because usually it's not just brought up in everyday conversation. But D group, it comes up in conversation. And it's like, oh, that person's also struggling with that sin. And it's just nice to know not alone.
When our small group, we break up into groups of 3 or 4. And we were talking, and I was kind of just telling everybody how I was going through this period of stress and just everything was kind of overwhelming me. And one of the people in our group said, oh, that's good to know that you go through the same stuff all of us go. It's it's weird. I don't want to be viewed any different than everybody else. I have the same struggles as everybody else. And it's just, I guess, knowing that other people are going through the same things and seeing how they get through it, it just can help you, not only in your faith, but just in general, and just how to deal with life, because obviously life's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, just recently, it's we've been so much more, especially with the group chats that we've created and just getting together and actually talking about it. We've been so much more open on, actually struggling and not trying to just put on the image of just overall the perfect Christian all the time.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, obviously for not, but for a while it's not something that we really talked about.
Yeah, no Christian's
But-
perfect.
No.
But it was just recently we've been a lot more. It's been easier to solve problems because of how much we've talked to each other about it and tried to figure it out as a group. Because as Myles said, realize we all kind of struggle with the same things. Seems to be a common pattern.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we see how each other handles struggles and how pretty much we all struggle with the same things. That obviously helps me. I mean, I don't want to view myself as the main leader of the group, but I do most of the lessons, and a lot of people come to me when they have questions and things. But it's just seeing that I'm not alone in the same struggles that I have, even in this kind of leadership role. That obviously I'm not going to be perfect, but it's nice seeing how we can all help each other through each other's struggles.
Yeah.
yeah,
And Myles, just so you know, even if you don't see yourself as kind of the leader, most of the other people do.
Yeah, I know. I've been told
the
that.
leader of the group.
Yeah.
You're the
And-
most Christ-like.
See,
I feel you strive
yeah.
the most out of all of us.
It's not that I strive the most. I've just been. Obviously, we're all in different points of our walk and our faith. I guess I'm just kind of, I don't want to say farther along, but I've kind of been more intentional about my faith since starting this group and just learning more, growing more in knowledge, and kind of just putting it upon myself to do everything I can for the glory of God's kingdom.
Yeah, I think in a way we all have. I know for me it's been one of the big things that's changed is probably just not how much I talk about God, but how much more, like, through my day, God is in, like, every decision that I make. Like, it seems like before I was just in kind of like an idle mode, but now it's really, really changed on how much, like, God is just in a lot or most, if not every, decision that I make during the day, or, like, a lot of the things that happen to me during my day. Where before I was, like, I don't want to say, like, I don't worry anymore, but there's a lot less worry, and I feel like there's a lot more, oh, well, God's here to help you along that path, and, you know, if you just trust him, as we saw the other night.
There's, like, two very real aspects of faith where it's heavily individual, but there's also, like, a community sense. Obviously, we get at church, we all come together as one body of Christ to worship God. But a lot of your faith is on your own, too, and in your own personal life and with your family and things like that. But it's kind of, you have to understand you have to merge the two together. You can't just depend on your faith being only in the church, but you also have to understand that you have to, like, there's some people who think that they can still be a Christian without, like, going to church and things like that. But I think it is very necessary to go to church and have that community in the body of Christ. To have that, to be in that Christian walk, you have to do both in a way.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, it pushes you along in the Christian walk to have that community. So even if it's not, you have, like, being in the church and being part of it is, like, a huge thing to help you move along and help you advance and not just stay in the same position for a long time.
Yeah, because, like, the Bible's very complicated from time to time, so it's better to, like, have other views on what it's saying rather than just your own view in case you're wrong.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you think about it, like, the people that don't really go to church very much and, like, just kind of do it on their own. It's like, what if you have, like, questions who you get to go to? You just got to try to figure it out yourself, because you can't figure everything out on your own. People have different experiences, and people learn different things through those experiences. So that's why you need that community to help you along, to help you in your growth and your faith and your walk with Christ. It's very necessary. I know, obviously, some of us here are kind of more introverted, and it's hard to kind of put yourself out there, but it's very necessary. So.
Yeah, and especially, obviously, none of us are Bible experts.
No,
like, I know,
not
especially not. Sometimes even growing up my entire life in the church, when I'm sitting in Bible study, I'm like, I don't know how you and Tristan know so much. I'm like, I feel like I'm, like, way behind on the Bible knowledge thing. But like I told Trey, like I told you the one time, it was like, even if you don't know everything about the Bible and every story and every chapter and what Luke said here and what Matthew said here in this verse, it's still knowing the core, like knowing the values and the beliefs that, and knowing what's right and wrong and being able to tell people about that. And even though I don't know everything about it, or you don't know everything about it, or Myles doesn't know everything about it, obviously we can still make huge change. And if you just look at how our group in Bible study, which is, I've been calling it Bible study the whole time. I know some of us call it like D group, discipleship
group. It's kind of the same thing. They're there to study the Bible, but through it we are discipling each other and growing.
Yeah,
it's pretty much the same.
So, anyways, you can still help people in everyday life, especially on the walk, and kind of where to find the right path. Like, even if you don't know every chapter or every verse, just knowing what's right and what to do helps a lot.
Yeah. So what I've seen in our church, there's a lady who obviously she's a little older and isn't able to do a lot. I mean, obviously some of us are fit to do like ministry, like whatever, that's youth, like just things like whatever we're called to do. There's some people that are literally not able to do that. And what they do, what this lady did is she sends out like cards of encouragement to people. That's still being Christ-like. That's still growing the kingdom of God, because some people need those, and that helps people. So it's like you don't have to do anything extraordinary. You just do what God has called you to do. Like, we all have a purpose, no matter where we're at in life. You just have to be obedient to what that might be.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, finding your calling and finding the path that God called you to is I mean, ultimately one of the most important things, if you can find where he called you and what he called you to do, which I think if you really look, at first it may seem like, oh, I don't know where God called me. I'm like kind of lost right now. I don't know. How do I know that I found the right path? I think if you really look and give it time and trust that he'll show you the right way, I think you'll find the path and find that it's a lot easier to know that you're on the path than you maybe originally thought.
Yeah.
Because, like, I know for me, kind of just like recently, since we're kind of starting to get to that age where we're going to start going different directions and start to actually go to the path that God called us to. It just seems like sometimes things just kind of, like, I'll worry about it, but then I'll just trust God and let him make where my path wants to go. And if I just trust him and make the right decisions on where he wants me to go, it seems to lead to good places, even if originally I think I'll be stressed out about it, whether it's like a class or I don't know. But it seems to always work out in the end just fine, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess what we're kind of getting at here is, like, God can use you wherever you're at in life, whether it's, like, obviously some people are called to do ministry, whether that's preaching or whatever, but you could just be Christ-like even just at your daily job. Like, you could just work and see people are struggling, being there for them, being their friend, and encouraging them is Christ-like. I mean, it doesn't have to be going out in the corner of the street and preaching the gospel. Obviously, some people are called to that, and is what it is. But God can use you wherever you're at. You just have to be obedient.
Yeah, like my dad was talking about today in the service, being I forget what it was. Being flavorful with God, I think is what it was. Talking about, like, word. Having people, well, it's because we had, like, a really good dish the other night.
He used church casseroles?
No, it wasn't the church casseroles. We got a lot of old ladies at our church, though, so they do make a lot of banger casseroles. But it was just having that, being, like, having people know that you have God in you, and just, like, making that evident even without saying anything about it. Like, just having that, like, oh yeah, this person is godly. This person is a Christian, and you don't even have to say anything about it. They just, like, know. Yeah. Like, having that kind of feel about you, which is, like, I feel like that's pretty cool. Like, I kind of want to strive for that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to talk about being a Christian or talk about God for people to know that I'm a Christian.
Yeah, you don't want someone to be like, "Oh, you're a Christian," and, like, have them be, like, super surprised about that.
Yeah, that's not.
If
show God in everything that you do.
I've heard people be like, "Oh, God's like your whole personality." It's like, well, I'm doing something right. And if people are surprised to know that you're a Christian, then you should probably check yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about, Trey, while we're kind of speaking. Your whole journey to the faith was
just
very
bring that up.
Trey,
can we talk about your, like, testimony?
Yeah,
everything.
Just growing up, my family, we've all, like, acknowledged, like, being Christians, but we never, like, we went to church from time to time, but we never, like, went that deep into it. Like, we didn't really talk about it at home at all. So then, I was in a dark time in my life, didn't even know I was in it until Myles started bringing me to some church events, like some youth groups the church were having after school. And then one week he was like, "Hey, you want to come to church with me?" And I showed up to church, and ever since then I've been going every single week, been going to all of my church's things. A few weeks, was it like a month or two after that, I got baptized. Myles actually baptized me. It was a very fun experiment.
Clip that.
Clip that.
Yeah, he almost drowned me.
Yeah. There's some conspiracy there, whether it was him trying to just drown by letting his full weight be in the water and be not.
I was supposed to do. I didn't have anything behind me.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I thought he was supposed to just sit there until the holy
he was ready to go home. He was just letting it happen.
He's like, I'm saved now.
I'm saved.
Might as well go home. I'm good, I guess.
So it was interesting. I remember talking to you. I think it was a month after you first went to church. I sat you down. We were in the back, actually. And I'm like, "Hey, have you ever thought about, like, being baptized?" And you're like, "Yeah, I've been thinking about it a little bit." I'm like, "Do you know what it means?" And we kind of talked about it back and forth. And then I'm like, "Oh, when do you want to do it?" It's like, "Can we do it today?" I'm like, "Yeah." So
in my mind, I was thinking, like, okay, it'll be like after the service, once people is gone, I'll get baptized. Nope. Miles brought me
Middle of
up
the service.
front.
I followed you. You walked up.
You told me, you were like, all right, Trey, if you really want to get baptized, go walk up to the front. So I started walking up and you followed me.
So clearly you really wanted to be baptized. So.
And, talked to the pastor and he brought
I
me
was
up on
emotional wreck
stage.
there, but
Yeah.
sorry. So was my mom.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was on stage singing, so.
Mom was very emotional.
Yeah, so it's something interesting. We kind of had this analogy of a lot of people grow up in the church and then learn how to like swim in the shallow end. Trey, not knowing how to swim, jumped willingly into the deep end,
Yeah.
head first, no looking back. And that is something I truly admire. That's something I wish I did growing up in the church. I mean, I understood things. I had more knowledge of things, but I guess he understood what needed to be done and he acted on it really quick. And that's something you don't see a lot of times. A lot of people today are like, I talk to like, oh, you want to be baptized? Like, oh, I've been thinking about it. And it's like, they just kind of push it to the side. But no, Trey heard what he needed to do and he did it willingly. And that is something I admire. And
Yeah. I think Trey's, honestly, like Trey's testimony is probably one of my favorites of all time. For some reason, just every time, I just love it. Just love hearing about it because I don't know if I've ever seen a kid who was, you got to understand, this kid rode his bike like 20 minutes.
Have to bring that
Yeah,
up.
he lives
20
the next
minutes
town
to church for weeks and weeks
Yeah.
and weeks.
He literally lives the next town over, and it was like what? It was when you first started coming. It was either like March, and it was still somewhat cold then. You're riding your bike to church. That's most people who live down the street don't want to go because they want to sleep in. You're getting up, riding your bike,
Getting up
I
at
like
what, 7,
riding my bike.
6 in the morning?
I enjoy the bike trail.
and I respect
It's
that.
Nice
That's
and
respect.
peaceful.
Yeah.
I get my alone time. I can just admire all that God has made around me. I can play some music and sing as loud as I want to it without
Josiah
worrying
Queen,
about
shout out.
people. Josiah Queen, one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just nice. I don't get why people think it's that bad.
No, it's not that we think it's
No.
bad. It's just it's something you don't see out of kids these days. I know you enjoy riding your bike, but even people that enjoy riding your bike won't
Yeah.
get up early to go places.
If I had to get
doing
up,
it.
what time did you get up to get to church? When you
So like since Sunday school is at like 8:40, and I usually plan like an hour. I want to leave the house an hour before I'm supposed to get there.
Oh.
So like I'd probably wake up at like somewhere around 7 o'clock.
And this is on a weekend, mind you, and we are teenagers. That is not something you see.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. It's like something that you would hear when, like, for missionaries in another country, when like kids will walk for miles and miles to come hear the Lord. It's like, that's like what Trey was doing.
Yeah.
It's just, I love.
Except I wasn't walking.
Yeah, he was
and
biking, but you get the
rides.
gist.
I had rides to church.
Yeah.
I just preferred to.
And you
ride
could
a
have,
bike.
like, you can always, even if you don't still now, you could always ride with us. Like, we literally drive past the church.
Yeah.
All the
Like there's people in the church that have
Maybe.
asked you.
Yeah.
I think what Scott Schaefer did last
Yeah.
week. Yeah. I do think it is interesting though, because I mean how God works. I've been praying for Trey since like I don't even remember like the last birthday party you went to was like 6th, 7th grade. Obviously you've been to the past few, but like before you actually were a Christian.
Long time.
I've been praying for Trey for a long time. And I mean, I got baptized 6th grade, so I got the Holy Spirit in me. And that was kind of the first times I really felt the Holy Spirit calling me. And it was pretty much just, I was talking to Trey, I think it was probably at school or something when I asked you. And I just kind of felt like, oh, invite him to church. Like that thought just popped in my mind. And it happened a couple of times before I actually did it, I will say. Because I was scared. I'm like, oh, he's going to turn me down. Oh, he's going to think I'm weird because I go to church. And
I
then,
didn't think you were weird. It wasn't because you went to church.
yeah,
Because you went to church.
yeah, or whatever, Trey. But after the first few times of hearing it, I should have acted on it sooner. But I didn't really understand as much then. I ended up listening to that voice that was in my head, and Trey goes, "Yeah, sure. When is it?" I'm like, "Oh,
But it depends on how
Okay.
sooner, because I don't really know. I can't really remember what was going through my head when I said yes, but it was kind of like, all right. I was thinking to myself, maybe I should go to church from time to time. And then Myles came and asked me, hey, you want to go to church? If he would have asked me before that, I might have just like brushed it off, would have not gone.
Yeah. And it's quite, I mean, the amount of growth you've had, and it's been around a year and a half now.
Yeah.
Since you were baptized and everything. The amount of growth I've seen in you I've never seen this much growth in anybody else. And it's really encouraging. It's like, especially when I go through dark times, it's like, oh, I don't feel God. I don't know what he's trying to get me to do. I don't know where to go. I look back on when God had that voice in me of talk to Trey, and Trey listened, and Trey was obedient to everything, and the way he's grown. It's just something I can look back on in those times, and it is something I'm very grateful for. Yeah. So thank you, Trey, for...
Yeah, we love Trey's testimony.
Yes.
Anytime.
Yeah, Trey.
I can't do that, right?
No, you're in this podcast. It's too late.
You're in until the against my will anymore.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of talking about the podcast, I do want to say we are all still learning, and we don't know everything. Yeah. We are only relaying the things we have heard and learned through our experiences. Some of the things we talk about, we will admit we don't know everything about it, and we will say that. So if you have something that you're wondering about what we're saying, why don't you look it up for yourself and talk to people about things, because we're still learning too. So, and even if that's just correcting us on something, that's fine.
Yeah,
we're still learning.
If we do say wrong stuff, please tell us.
Yes.
Because, I guess we could always talk to Mark Dettmer. But
yes, we have a lot of people we can talk to.
A lot of people.
We have a lot of people trying to encourage this group, and it is really...
Xander.
Phone call. Trey, so how have you seen God work in your life? This is not one of the questions I've written down. I'm just kind of winging it.
How have I seen him work in my life?
I mean, we've seen him work, so if you haven't, we got plenty to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's just ever since I started going to church. Before that, I didn't really have like any point in my life. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I was just kind of living in the moment. But now that I've like given my life to Christ, I have like a path, and I know that there's a path ahead of me that's laid out for me from God. It just feels like I have more purpose in my life.
I do remember you telling me there was a time before you started coming to church, things like praying to God and questioning if he was real. Is that correct? Yeah.
There was multiple times I was like, God, if you are real, show me a sign right now. Like, I wanted a sign in that moment. Yeah.
And that's a very common thing, unfortunately, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They search for signs, and that's not how you see God, really.
It's not on your timing, it's on God's timing.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, we have plenty to say on that.
Boy, do we know about the signs and God's timing.
Yeah.
God's timing is incredible.
It is, always. So,
are those your new Hey Dudes?
They are. They're all leather. We are not sponsored, so.
I like those.
You can't talk about anything that we're not sponsored by.
I'm just kidding.
Like the Sprite can that I'm drinking.
Yeah, that's right. Shout out.
The outdoorsman's on the table and the Dr. Pepper.
So, obviously, we don't know where this podcast is going to go. But I guess what I've been kind of clinging to, the Bible verse I've been clinging to for this, is seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added to you. In the fact that in something, if you seek first the kingdom, God will bless it, and it might turn out to be something bigger than we expect it to. Our goal in this is not obviously to get a whole bunch of followers, make money, or anything like that. We're doing this so people can benefit from it.
From this?
Probably.
What?
It's probably not.
I mean, unless we get sponsored or something, but I don't.
Oh, yeah. Or we blow up and get funding from, like, YouTube.
Yeah. That's not the intentions of this, but it'll be yeah. If it was, we'd be talking about different stuff, so.
I was going to say it.
Yeah. If nobody watches this, then it is what it is, but you're going to trust God in this whole process.
I mean, we'll always have this to go back and look at.
We will. Like, imagine 20 years down the road, it's like, oh.
This is our first episode in the sanctuary.
Look how much we know. Yeah, this is our first episode.
This is their church, by the way.
This is New Life in Belleville.
Belleville, Ohio.
Yeah.
This probably won't be the location that we're at every single podcast.
It'll just depend on where we can do stuff. So.
Because this is like kind of we're like on the stage with the chairs lined up with the stage lights and everything. So it is really official.
It is.
We're probably going to be moving to a less like talk show situation and more podcast situation soon.
Yeah.
But What you got, Safety Town going on right now?
Also, yeah, Safety Town's in the room we're going to use.
Yeah.
Also, just if you guys want to let us know in the comments or something, just questions you have about things. Just questions about anything, just suggestions for anything. We're all for it. Again, we're still learning. We still want to know things, and maybe your questions will actually benefit us. So just feel free, in whatever way. If you know us outside of this podcast, you can talk to us in person or whatever. But just talk to us. This is not going to be a strict just us three thing. We're going to leave it open to everybody. This is to help you guys. It's not just for us. It's going to help us too. But
yeah.
So,
get some phone calls in here. How it is.
Yeah.
Get some other people.
Yeah.
Change it up a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the plan too, is we're going to bring in like pastors and stuff to talk to, and just people in their walk in their faith and that has stories to share that we want to hear about, and other people can benefit from it. So,
yeah.
What is one, this is one of my questions. What is one aspect of your faith you want to grow in more? Yeah. I mean, there's a few for me, but it doesn't have to be just one.
Dettmer, you can go first.
I mean, I can start if you really
Probably.
need
I don't know. I don't really whittle it down to the specific stuff. And I always kind of look at the positive sides of things. So it's like hard for me to whittle down to one negative aspect of it, but just the general, everything that's involved in being a Christian and everything that goes along with that, which also, like, I would say right now, it also is kind of hard. I'm proud to say right now, because like with this Bible study that we're doing, I would say my faith right now is stronger than it has ever been in my entire life.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people.
There's a noticeable difference in how much more just God there is, like I said, just in my everyday life.
It's kind of funny how this group started too. It started out as an idea. Mm-hmm. Actually, last summer it was an idea, and we just didn't really act on it. And I prayed about it for a while. And then it was, November, December, and we were like, okay, we could probably actually do this. And it started out as like 5 of us sitting around a plastic table, and it was about 5 minutes about talking about God, and nobody was focused. It felt like an absolute wreck to me, and I was the one supposed to be teaching. I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is going to work. And then it is actually like blossomed into something great.
I still have a picture from that first group. I remember sitting around the table.
I was not there.
Chips and salsa.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how...
We had chips and salsa the first group?
Yeah.
From Jasmine?
No. It was, I think Tristan brought in like a jar, and we poured it in a bowl.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
We probably will have other people on the podcast.
Oh yeah, this is not just going to be us three. This is going to be one of the few.
There is supposed to be a fourth person who should be here most every week. He's not here right now, but it'll probably be us three all the time, and then other people. And we could also have like other kids from our friend group, and who knows?
Yep.
Someone else may come in.
We're just going to pretty much bring people in and talk about their stories and how their faith has grown in different ways through different circumstances, and just things we can all benefit from, I think. So,
2 cameras feels like a lot to look at, Myles. I don't know where to look.
You don't really got to look at the cameras, but we're talking to each other.
I know, but sometimes sometimes I feel like I should look at it, but I'm like, I don't know where to look.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them.
So, Trey, what ways do you think you need to grow in your faith? What needs to change in your faith or something along those lines? Yeah.
I know this is going to sound kind of crazy just after all we talk about, but I feel like
Big Fit's real, guys. Sorry.
More consistent in my upbeat, like more consistent with me in fighting other people, because I'm not that much of a talker of like a social person, after church.
After church,
sometimes I'll like run away to the room just to be alone, or I'll stand and like listen to people's conversations. But I just want to go and find more people to bring into our group and like to bring to church. Like I know some people, they have their own churches and stuff, but I just think it would be like fun if we had more people in our group and in our walk with God, just more people with us.
And what are the chances we think? Do you have a lesson for this week?
I don't yet. Okay. I was going to talk to you about that.
I was thinking about like this week how I said just because it's like a small group, just getting everybody incorporated and just kind of going around the room and texting everybody like today because it's Sunday and giving them till Thursday and say, bring a question. Who knows where it'll go? Like
Q&A type thing.
Yeah, just bring a question, ask the question, and we could do like this because we all know we could ask a question and get sidetracked and talk for hours about it.
I also think we could almost do a podcast like that. We just have a whole bunch of people have questions. We could just answer them.
Yeah.
But
like if we just filled this sanctuary, probably about 100 people in here or something.
100 questions. Just keep going.
Keep it rolling. But yeah, if which I think would be a good idea if we did that, and if not, I could probably pick up a lesson.
Yeah, we could figure something out. Yeah.
And what I was gonna say is, what do we think? There's a kid in our main friend group who he was never really like interested in coming. By never really, I mean he's not interested in all. But he last week.
Oh yeah.
He showed up. It was to talk about other things, but I don't know if we ever actually talked about that. But he showed up after like our thing was over and we were done with our small groups, and it was right in the middle of, we need to talk about this so we can clarify everything. Yeah. It was right in the middle of, we were all really happy and celebrating and stuff.
Why don't we just go through the whole story?
Yeah, we can go through this.
So before we get to that story, actually, I'll have my answer to that question. I think, in my faith, I need to understand I don't know everything. I mean, I understand that, but like at times I feel like I have to solve everything. That's not my job. That's God's. So I need to learn how to just kind of, when people need help, I'll talk to them, give them my advice, pray about it, and just let God handle it instead of me trying to fix everything, because I can't. I'm a human. I mean, I had an issue with that this week, and it kind of overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
So I guess not only that, but I just need to be better at just being there for people, even if just like a friend hangout or something, because I feel like I just need to build those relationships with people. So I don't want to be kind of like disconnected from everybody because it's like, oh, I think he knows more than us. And it's like, no, I'm still learning like you guys. I just need to be able to understand everybody better. Yeah. So pretty much I just need to let God handle things and not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that.
So do you want to start that story?
Yeah. So we can get into the situation.
Start square one.
So
not every detail, obviously.
I've told like 10 people this story. I've pretty
told
sure I got
a lot too.
I'm sure we've got it down to a T. So at the beginning of this Bible study, when we started it, especially when it really started getting moving, instead of just us talking every week to each other about God, when we really started to notice difference and actually notice change in our faith, we kind of agreed that the devil probably doesn't like what we're doing.
Probably.
He doesn't like that we're a bunch of teens spreading faith and we're growing and spreading God and just jumping for Jesus and everything.
Yeah.
And we kind of all agreed that, especially Myles, that he would kind of like attack us. Yeah. And because, he doesn't like it, and try and stop us any way he can. And you could tell, especially in the recent few weeks, especially with more than others in the group, we've all really been kind of struggling and being attacked by the devil because, he just doesn't like it. And it's just like in group chats and talking about it and stuff, everyone seems to have their own struggles and temptations just all the time recently.
Yeah,
and I
so
know you can
pretty
attest
much
that for a fact.
Yeah, there's like a situation that just kind of split people, and that obviously caused issues. So that's all we're really going to say about that. There's pretty much an issue. The group kind of split up in almost two sides, almost.
Oh,
there's just a lot of like division and just anger all around. And it was rough, but you can continue. My bad.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I was going to get into that. I'll let you talk about your kind of major situation if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I can do that.
But I'll talk about that situation that kind of split the group after, because I'm kind of going day to day.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Because you had your thing on Tuesday?
Yeah. Tuesday going into Wednesday.
Yeah. So you can talk about that if you want to.
So how I talked about how I just need to let things go and let God handle it. So I have a lot of people that come to me with issues, and that's fine. That's what I told them to do. I'm like, hey, if you have a problem, you can talk to me. I can help you through it. But in a way, they would tell me their problems, and I'd almost try to like be the one to fix everything. Obviously, I can't do that, and I learned that. So through this whole situation, people were telling me, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do." It's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Okay, this is the way you guys doing it. I don't think it would be the right way to do it." And it was on a phone call, and I pretty much told them, "Okay, if you have an issue, then you talk in person with people. You don't do things certain ways." And it was about an hour and a half where I was trying to convince them to not do what they're going to do. And I took it on myself to pretty much like, oh, this is my fault. I don't know why I should have convinced them. It's like, they're not seeing things my perspective or something. That wasn't the main issue. But the issue was every other, like 75 different issues compiled on to that one. And I just have a problem letting go of problems like in general. So it kind of brought me to the point where like, it just kind of broke me in a way. I was overwhelmed by everybody's problems. I was stressed out like crazy. I could feel the devil attacking me, and it was hard. It was very difficult, and there's thoughts put into my mind that were not from me. And it was just, the devil was attacking me like crazy. I'm like, I don't know where God's at in this. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And it was...
Said, yeah, it was a big moment.
It was a huge moment. And it's not a moment that's just going to go away. It's going to keep affecting me moving forward, how I see things. And this problem's not going to go away. So it brought me to the point, I don't know what time it was, but I kind of told my parents everything and just how problems are kind of overwhelming me. And they're like, okay, you just got to let things go. You got to let things go. I'm like, I broke down in tears. I'm like, Mom, I don't know how. Like, I can't just let things go. I don't know how. So I just kind of lost it. And my parents were praying with me and just helping me get through this. And it was like 2 hours, this whole thing happened. And we were just sitting there. It was just rough. And the devil was putting thoughts in my mind. And it was just all hurting. I just didn't know where God was at in all this. And I went to bed. Actually, I went to bed listening to a Christian song. It's called Agnus Dei. I literally fell asleep to that. It's like 20 minutes long. And I'm like, I'm not going to run from God in this. I'm going to cling to him because he's gotten me through situations before. Obviously not this bad, but he's gotten me through this. So I'm going to trust him. And it was really rough. And then going to the next day, it didn't feel any better. Obviously feelings are one thing, but it didn't feel any better. And I met with our pastor, talked through everything. And after that, everything started to make more sense and understand. I'm like, okay, I can't fix everything. That's fine. But it was just really, really, really difficult. And because this all happened on Tuesday, and Wednesday is when I met with our pastor and talked through things. And then the whole situation happened. Everything started to blow up. I didn't have my phone because I was not going to let myself be overwhelmed by things. So I just kind of took a break, kind of chilled, relaxed from everything. And then the next day was supposed to be D group. We have D group on Thursdays typically. And we were talking about canceling it because everything was going downhill. It's like, okay, we might just need to take a break from things. And I talked to Kaylin, which is my girlfriend, and I'm like, okay, I think we're going to cancel D group. She's like, why? I'm like, well, the whole situation going on, it's like everybody's overwhelmed. She's like, this is like a perfect opportunity. I'm like, yeah, dang, you're right.
You can do it.
And I'm like, okay. So we did a lesson. It was over mountains and valleys of Christianity, like your walk with God. There's going to be high points where you feel God like crazy. There's going to be parts where you don't know where he's at. You're struggling like crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it helped people or not, but
it did.
Yeah.
It's
and
good to hear.
you could tell during the whole lesson that it was kind of, and like we were all like, still friends, still.
There was definitely a tension in the room.
But you could tell it was just, the air was just kind of heavy and everything. And Trey, when did you leave?
I left at like 8 o'clock, so I left pretty
I
early.
think
I don't know if you've heard any of this.
The main fight.
Detmer kind of told me a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
I kind of got it in a nutshell.
Yeah. But I don't really pick up on subtle clues like that. I didn't know there was that much tension in the room.
Yeah. So I don't know who all was in your small group, but I had 2 people that weren't involved in the situation whatsoever. So we just talked. I told them about how everything was overwhelming. And they're like, so you deal with all our problems. Like, we're here for you too. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't really realized that. Like, I'm not the only one that has to deal with everything. And there's other people here for me too. So it's like, it's just I should have seen this sooner than having it break me. But like it was just like, dang. And these two people are newer in their faith too. So just seeing that, like, just hit me. Like, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah. And I guess if I can continue on with
you can go ahead. I hit my part, so.
So as Myles said, Wednesday there was just this big event in the group that didn't split us, like split the group, as in like we weren't friends with each other anymore. But there was just a lot of, not argument, there's a lot of anger, and I mean a lot.
Yeah.
When, like I said, there was just a big long, it was like when I was talking to Myles, it just felt like there was so much hatred and so much anger, and it was just, I didn't like it. None of us liked it.
Also, what were you, never mind. We'll get into that. I was going to ask you, what were you talking to Kaylin about? Like, if you don't know if you want to share that.
I was just going to talk about that. And we, as I said, Thursday night, this all happened on Wednesday, and then Thursday night, our Bible study, Myles said he was going to cancel it, didn't cancel it, which I think was a blessing that we didn't cancel it. And we did our lesson, a lot of tension, went into our small groups. So we split up into 3 small groups. Myles took one, I took one, and Myles' girlfriend, Kaylin, took one. And Kaylin had finished up with hers, and Myles was still in his, and I had finished up with mine. And Trey left after we finished pretty soon because his mom was here. Mm-hmm. And me and Kaylin sat in the main Bible study room for a bit and talked about just kind of everything that was going on, because, as I said, there was a lot, and we just kind of talked about like how the devil was like hating what we were doing, and like how we were praying for one of the people in our group because it was just felt really off, and we were really worried about them. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I can't even remember what all we were talking about, but at one point I literally, like, we stopped in the middle of our sentence and said we have to pray, because it was just like, it was like the heart was beating fast, and it was a really tense moment in the church. And I don't know if it was just because like we were the only 2 in the room, like whispering about it, and it had just, like, when we were talking about it, it had just started like absolutely pouring.
Yeah, no, it was
like,
it was weird how all that went on, and then just like downpour storm just going on.
So it was like a major freak out moment.
I was in the middle of town, and I saw a bolt of light.
Yeah.
It was just constant.
Trey was gone.
Yeah, Trey
he ain't having none of that.
Trey was gone. And so I was like, oh, I have to pray like right now, because it was really freaking us out. And Altoids, this kid always has Altoids.
Dude did the best.
Wherever he goes. And so we were talking and stuff, and it was just, we didn't like it. And Kaylin was talking about how she felt like how the air was heavy and everything, and like she had like goosebumps.
I could see it. Yeah,
Like she had like goosebumps. Her hair was like standing up on end. It was like,
it's just frizzy. It happens.
Yeah, that's true. But it was a lot. And
we're talking about arm hair. My bad. I thought you were talking about like her head.
No,
oh, my bad. I was confused. My bad.
And
that was weird.
do I like getting in the main? Should I like get into the main thing?
Yeah, if you want.
Okay.
You're just telling it. We're listening.
So everybody gets done. Myles gets done with his small group, and everybody starts to get back in the main Bible study. Well, Trey had left at this point, and then Tristan and his sister, 2 other kids in our group, had left. And so everybody else was still there. And everybody's getting back into the main Bible study, and there's these 2 girls in our group who weren't there because they're in Florida, Iona and Kylie. Yeah. Kylie hasn't been baptized.
Yeah, Iona's kind of been like discipled by a couple people in the church. She's grown up in the church.
Iona's really grown in her faith, and Kylie she started to grow in her faith.
She's been thinking for a while.
Yeah, so she's kind of like, she's been searching too. And we've been praying for her for a while too, if I'm going to be honest, to like help her along her way and her track. And it was just it was all a lot, just a lot of down feeling. So everybody gets back in the main room, and nobody's really talking, and it's kind of tense, and we're all getting ready to head out. And just then, Jasmine, a girl in our group who's on the phone, walks into the main room and says, Kylie got baptized.
Yeah, Do you want me to interject here?
Yeah, you can.
So she said that it's her phone. I ripped the phone out of her hands, run to another room. I'm like, Kylie, what the heck? She's like, yeah, I just got baptized. I'm like, what? It's a random it's 8:30 on a Thursday. What the heck?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, went in the ocean. I'm like, okay.
In the ocean, mind you.
She's
in
like,
their dresses from supper.
Yeah, literally, yeah. So they did that. And I'm like, so like, when did this come about? She's like, oh, I've been thinking about it for a while. I really wanted to. And she's like, oh, we were just by the ocean. I'm like, I just felt right. I'm like, oh, okay.
All right.
And I'm like,
boy, did it.
Yeah. She was like, this is like the best decision I ever made. I'm like, yes, yeah, it is. She's like, this feels great. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay, I told her, I'm like, I don't think you guys know anything about back home. Everything's been really rough here. And you just called at a moment where things were just bad.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know about anyone else in the group, but like for me and Myles, it was like instant waterworks.
Oh yeah, no, so
instantly started crying.
I went back in, gave Jasmine her phone again. I walk out of the room. Caden goes the other way. I pull him. I thought he was just like walking away from me.
I thought you were gonna follow me, but I was going to another room.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pulled him and we went in another room, and we just lost it. Like,
yeah.
Holy cow.
Like it was like we lost it. Hugged, cried, and like praised God for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was just nothing really was said besides we praised God for like 15 minutes, and then we started to talk and things. You can continue.
But it was like a major. For a while, things have been bad, and God was like, "This is what happens when you just trust in me. Is there easier ways out? Yeah. Has the devil told you there's easier ways out? Yeah. But he never said the Christian walk was going to be easy. And it's almost like we said, it's almost like he told the devil, you mess with my kids, and this is what happens when you mess with my family. I go on and I get another girl saved, and look at that. It was just like, as we say, just a big old black eye to the devil.
Yeah. What was that phrase you said? Like, devil pushes down, and like, we stood. I don't remember.
It was, no clue.
But it was weird because, again, it was storming at the time. And then Jasmine called and said Kylie got baptized, went out, and then I pulled Kaiden aside and we were talking, and then the storm stopped.
Yeah, like the rain stopped just as we were talking about it, like for a minute. It started again. But point is, it stopped, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it was interesting because it's like we were almost like metaphorically like in the storm. Like we were struggling. Things were bad.
Yeah.
We were in the storm, and then God gave us a moment where the storm was calm.
Mm-hmm. And it was cool because when we just said we don't know if this is affecting the rest of the group like it's affecting us, but it was just when we said that, we listened out, and it's like everyone was laughing and joking and like having a great time out in the room.
Changed.
Just an instant switch, and everybody's celebrating and everybody's happy. And like you said, this was when two of the kids who never go and have never considered going to our Bible study, they were there. And they came in and saw, wait, we came here to talk about a seriously bad situation that the friend group is in. And now everybody's supposed to be down and sad, and everybody's yelling and celebrating and laughing and having a good time. And kids who were mad at each other yesterday are like laughing and joking together.
Yeah, it's like nothing even happened.
Yeah, and they're all doing it in the name of God.
Yeah, it was interesting because one of them's a proclaimed atheist, and then I don't know where the other one's at. But they're not like Christians, and they walked in after our Bible study to a church to talk about something serious, and they walked into us celebrating something that God did.
Yeah.
It's like there has to be an effect from that. You can't just ignore that.
Yeah.
So
you can't just go in and see that and be like, oh, I'm sure it's nothing.
Coincidence, you can't. There's no way.
And one of the things that really struck me and still strikes me right now, and sorry, Trey, I know you're not, like, you're just kind of sitting over there listening, but like we're basically telling you what happened too, because you were gone and everything.
Of, like, these situations, I just like shut my mouth and open my ears.
Yeah, Trey, that's something I also admire. It's like you understand that you're still learning, and you're open to just listening.
No, I still have so much to learn.
I do too. So
yeah, I think
we're just talkers right now.
But yeah, we're just kind of telling you about the whole situation and what happened. And
like I wasn't here, so I like
to
do this.
Yeah. And the other thing that like still strikes me is, if you knew the situation that Myles was in, which you do now, it was just like being down with the burden.
Yeah, no, I'm open to share my story. Like, I want people to have an effect from this. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just a vessel for Christ. That's kind of how I view it. My story is his story.
Yeah.
And his story's for all. So.
Yeah. And with everything, when you look at it at face worldly value, this is like what still strikes me more than anything. It's amazing. When you look at it at face worldly value, Kylie getting baptized and Myles having like struggling, not turning it over to God and just kind of trying to, like he said, like he described to me, I feel like I was trying to be Jesus and not turning it over and just trying to control everything.
It's almost like, I didn't realize it at the time, but like I was literally like trying to be like Jesus and everything. No, I can't ever like at all. And it makes me mad how I was almost trying to be that way. Like I'm not proud of that. I need to be like Jesus because I'll never be Jesus. So
yeah.
There's a very big difference in the two.
Yeah. And Kylie got baptized and it didn't directly, like there was no correlation at all, but somehow God made the connection. And what amazes me even more is God made the connection in both of our minds. Yeah. Like the fact that it hit us like a truck, like both of us at the same time.
I swear it's always me and you like that have those weird emotional like connections at those times.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's so amazing how God made that connection in our brains. Like Kylie getting baptized was somehow, he used that as a sign.
A light in the darkness in a way.
Yeah. He used that and said, this, like I said, this is what happens when you mess with my kids and you try and put us down. And when you put your faith in me, you can, and just trust in me, I'll show you a way.
It's not easy at all, I will admit. And those times where I was really, really struggling this past week, I didn't feel God. I mean, obviously feelings change and I can't depend my faith on feelings. That's a whole other topic. But like faith, you hear that word in church all the time, and then you have to actually live with it, and it's a different thing. Living by faith in all circumstances. Like obviously we were talking about in the lesson, like it's easy to have faith when you are on fire for God and things are going good. There's no issues really, but it's almost like faith isn't really necessary because God's just right there with you. Mm-hmm. But like it's in those times where you're struggling that God uses those moments where you had good things and to look back on. It's like, okay, God was good in that circumstance. And my God has, through the stories in the Bible, he has proven himself faithful. And in my own personal life, he's proven himself faithful. So it's like, why should I even worry? Because God is for me. It's crazy how, like, the way I kind of ended the lesson was, the God who is on the mountain is the same God who's there with you in the valley. And
D1 quote.
Quote of the day.
Quote it, published.
But it's very true. I mean, like, God, you're not gonna fully be in God's presence until you get to heaven.
Yeah.
But God will give you a glimpse of his glory when things are good and you're on that mountaintop experience in your faith where things feel like they're easy and it feels like God's right there and you're just wanting to do everything for God. But he's still there. I mean, as in the Psalm of David said, it's like, when I'm in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. We don't need to have that fear. Obviously, it's easier said than done. We're human. Yeah. But we don't need to fear because God's on our side. This is, if we're Christian, worst case scenario, we die. That's not a very bad scenario. That's not a very bad scenario at all. So it's like,
okay, well, I mean, maybe we shouldn't say that. Maybe we should. But I get what you're saying.
It's like, I've heard it said, through suffering is where we find our salvation. I think that's also very true.
Quoted, published.
Yeah, and it's the more you live in that suffering, the more you understand through that hardship. It's like, it's very true. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand my salvation and my faith more in those hard times, looking back on it. Now, during the moments, it's hard. It is terribly hard. But once you're through those moments and you have another moment like that, you have something to look back on. And it's not easy, but that's the Christian faith.
So anyways, Trey, that's what you missed on Thursday.
Yeah, I wish I was there.
I think it affected the whole group, even
even
the people who weren't there.
Yeah, even the people who weren't there. Even just seeing, she sent the video into the D group chat, and I just I don't know. It was very emotional the whole night, but I kind of lost it there too. I don't know if I couldn't tell if she was either laughing or crying after she got baptized. Either or.
I think, I don't know for a fact, but it sounded like, I don't know if they were laughing or crying, like you said. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
It sounded like they were, like Iona or Kylie or someone was like crying when I was telling them about what happened back home.
Oh, you did tell them?
Yeah, because
how did they respond to that actually?
A lot of laughing, like I said, a lot of laughing and probably crying and talking about how good it was. Because I was like, because after me and Hudson and Hanson went to McDonald's, and by the way, after Bible study, some of us always go to McDonald's. It's our thing.
Not me, because I'm always exhausted after the lesson.
And don't you take Kaylin home too?
Yeah, we take Kaylin home. She's like 20 minutes from here. So.
And I called her on the, like when I got to Hudson's house, I called her, and yeah, I like put her on speaker so that Hudson could listen too. And yeah, she like had no idea that was like how things were here and that was going to happen. But I mean, obviously, as you could see still in the group chat, it's the people. And I love how you can tell, like, some of the kids in our group are a little less faith-oriented.
Yeah.
You can tell, especially through this whole situation, you can tell a clear difference between who chooses to follow God and everything and who, like, doesn't really care about being a Christian or anything. Like, you can tell a clear difference on how they treat the situation.
My football coaches always use the expression of going through the motions. Like either you're there, you're in the moment, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're doing it right, or you're just going through the motions like you're on autopilot.
Yeah, so actually about that, there's a lot of people like who go to church who think that just by going to church they're saved, and that's not it. And it's
or just like believing in Christ, you're safe.
Yeah, I know. Choice. And that's in a way going through the motions. Okay, I went to church on Sunday, check. We don't have to worry about it in the rest of the week. But your faith is in the rest of the week. The Sunday is just like an encouragement and a community type thing. Like it's not your foundation of your faith. Your faith is in every day. It's like I've heard it said Monday morning faith. Yeah. Like what are you gonna do after you hear the sermon? After
it's Monday through Saturday.
It's Monday through Saturday. That's where the battles are fought.
And Trey, what did the one? I don't want to like say names, but what did the one kid say about we have one of our friends who he also, you know, like he has the want, but he's just not quite there yet, but he has the want and he truly wants to be better in God. But one thing that he does struggle with, what did he say about like a few weeks ago in our small group? What did he say about cussing? Do you remember?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have bad memory.
It's true.
Like a goldfish. 7 seconds, it's all reset.
But one kid said, I think he was like, I think is the analogy made, like, and this still kind of troubles me when I think about it. He said, well, like, yeah, when I'm home, like just by myself, maybe if I like stub my toe, like I'll say like a bad word, but that's just like when I'm home alone and like I stub my toe or something. But when I'm like out with people or with friends, I don't want that to be like the Christian image. So like obviously I won't say it because I don't want that to be like the Christian image. And I'm like, wait, I just wanted to be like, stop, because God is with you when you're home alone and you stub your toe too. Yeah. Like, and it's not, I want to be supportive, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, look, we say it all the time. It's not the image that you're trying to put on. If we're just going for just a Christian image and not actually truly being Christian, that's not good. It's what you do behind the scenes that, like you said, it's what goes on behind Sunday morning or behind just the face that you put on for a church service. And
I remember that now.
Yeah.
I remember also saying after that, like, how like some people are very two-faced. I think he did a lesson on it once. Like they'll act differently at church than when they.
I mean, I brought it up. I don't think I did a direct lesson on. I think I brought it up in a whole bunch of different lessons. But it's a very real thing.
Yeah, for sure.
How you should like, the way you act at church, that should be how you should act throughout the whole week.
Yeah, you're representing Christ in everything you do, whether that's with people or without.
Whether you're in this building or you're not.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's why I said it in D group before. Like, your faith isn't kept in this building. You're supposed to take it out everywhere with you. You're supposed to share it with people.
That's the point of our discipleship group.
It prepares you with knowledge and stuff to go out and make disciples.
Yeah, and I think that is. I just love how I think all of us in the group have been really, really affected by the group.
Oh yeah, especially me. I mean, obviously, I had to learn these things in these lessons, so that way I can
properly teach
it to you guys. Because if I don't know it, I'm just saying stuff, and then what's that mean? It's just empty words because I don't even know it.
Yeah,
it's like I have to fully understand things before I even relay them to you guys.
The blind leading the blind.
Yeah. Isn't there like a poem or something?
It's like a bunch of sheep walking each other. That shepherd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
go right into the ditch.
Get saved, jump back into the ditch.
Yeah.
Classic move. That's a real Christian thing.
Yeah, that's real good.
Jump into the same ditch that you were just saved from.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's
all too real.
I mean, I kind of consider you guys leaders in the group too. Obviously, not. It doesn't have to necessarily be lessons, but like by example. I mean, it's very important. Just by example. I mean, everybody in the group could be leaders, but just by example.
Yeah, because obviously there's, as much as it's like we want it to be just a small group that we can all discuss, which is why I wanted to bring up like the whole everybody just brings questions thing, because like that's what I want to kind of do a little bit more, is get a lot more discussion, because I love when you do like messages, but I wish more people would talk more, and obviously you need the group to do that, but we could like encourage the group by maybe even one week each person could read a little bit of scripture, which Caleb said this. He said this is like what, I don't know if this is what he said he did in his college group that he had, or this is just like what we could do, is everybody just like reads a little bit of scripture and then kind of writes a few notes on it and then brings it and we all talk about it and just all each talk about what we read, and then you could have some other group input on the things that you read. Yeah,
I'm open for anything, because obviously, I mean, I love making the lessons, but like sometimes like I'm busy with things. Obviously, this is like not my full-time job. This is like something
you're not a pastor.
I'm not a pastor. Like, this is something I do in my free time. So it's like I love doing the lessons and stuff, but like sometimes obviously people want change, and that's fine. So we can just mix things up a little bit sometimes. And that's fine.
I think there's also a lot of people in the group who would be fine with making it more of a, like I said, more of a like small group and less of a like message based thing.
Well,
not every week.
Yeah, I understand that, but like the issue with that is like you still need to have that big group connection within the small groups. So it's like,
yeah, that requires a lot of each individual input.
I mean, the lessons are like 30 to 45 minutes, right? So it's not I mean, we're there at 6:30, we leave at like 8:30. So it's like we have time to talk about things and just. Yeah. But yeah, I get where you're going at though. I do think maybe just having like a lesson where we just do questions. Everybody bring a question or something, and then we could have people up there trying to answer
questions, read some scripture, make some notes about it, and we can all just talk to each other about what we learned or what we read about in the Bible.
Yeah. So we kind of do in my small group is the times where I like give a lesson for the groups and whatever. But like I'll always kind of go like, okay, what's one blessing of the week and what's one bad thing of the week? Because like if you make them look back in their weeks, okay, what does God bless me with? That's a very encouraging thing, I think. Mm-hmm. And like looking on the bad thing, I mean, maybe you could see the bad thing led to the good thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen that, so
clearly,
yeah,
yeah. And also another thing that I noticed. Maybe this was just with the whole what's recently been happening, but in the group, looking more on how to fix things and less worrying on what you did wrong. I guess like I want to say like even right after what happened, like or even like what God did Thursday. Some of us were still gonna like, oh, back to the worrying grind. Like my dad said when I got home, he said. Don't go right back to being like don't worry about what the devil's going to do. He said, don't like ever worry about that. He said, always look on the positive to see and look at what God can do and never worry about what the devil's going to do to you.
Yeah, I mean, also like a thing that the devil's attacking us, that clearly means we're doing something right.
Yeah, that's what
so that's like that's a very encouraging thing too, because it's like, obviously we're doing something right here because the devil doesn't like it. So
we're all changing. He wouldn't care if we were just idle Christians.
I mean, you see it all the time. It's like he's not going to attack people who are going out and partying on Friday nights because they're already lost in their own desires. So it's like, I mean, he's not going to need to attack them, but if he needs to attack the ones that's hurting him. So,
Dettmer, I kind of like what your dad said about not worrying about what the devil does. Because a little bit ago, I was, if we're going to the same analogy of like being in the valley or being spiritually low or being on the mountain, being spiritually high, at that point I was on top of the mountain and I was feeling great. Past couple of days I was just really feeling the Holy Spirit in me, and then I just started to worry. Like, I know what's going to come next. I know that the devil's going to see this and try to attack me, because he always does that. Yeah. Like, when I feel good, I just always...
And in a way, that's him attacking you, too.
Yeah.
I mean, worry comes pretty much straight from the devil. I mean, I don't know if you guys... I forget which scripture. I think it might be in Romans or Philippians. Philippians. I think it's Philippians. And it talks about how to combat anxiousness and worry. That's thanksgiving and gratitude. I mean, there's literally been studies done that show that worry and anxiety cannot be in your brain at the same time as thanksgiving and gratitude, which is interesting because, like, it says this 2,000 years ago, and they're coming out with studies that shows these things can't come together in your brain. So it's like, it's just another point. It's like the Bible's like amazing. But I've kind of used that in a way, like in times when I'm worried, I'm like, I don't need to worry because I've seen what you've done in my life, and just kind of think of the things, even just in the past few days, like God's done. It's like, I don't need to worry.
Yeah, and I love, is what I like told my parents after Thursday and everything. One of my favorite things, which for the people who don't know us personally, like you wouldn't know this, but one of my favorite things is like being, or like one of the things I'm known for outside of our friend group, just in the school, is being like really positive all the time and happy all the time.
Yeah, I remember you took a personality test and like your anger tolerance was like the lowest number possible, or something like that.
The tolerance was
your
the
tolerance for
possible.
people, like
you're just like, no shocker there.
I know, like, yeah, you told me, like, yeah, I got this. I'm like, I'm not surprised.
But I love. Part of it's just my personality, but I absolutely love, especially recently, because before Bible study, there's always like the subconscious thought of like, if you say something about God, especially in like high school, someone's going to be like, oh, you're just like, this kid's just a Jesus freak. Like, I'm like, I don't even know why I think that, because I shouldn't be worried about being judged by man, because I know ultimately I'm living for him. Yeah. And I was like, why am I worried about saying things about God? Who cares? Like, who cares who judges me? Like, I'm not trying to be the popular kid. And like, so that's one thing that the Bible studies really helped me with. I'm just like, I could care less who judges me. Like, think whatever you want about me, because I have God. So it's almost like okay, boom, in your face.
Not only that we have God, obviously that's a big thing. It's like, I don't care what people think about me, but like, we have this group still who thinks the same way we do.
Everyone thinks the same way, and that's great.
It's like, we have nothing really to lose. Obviously, if this group for some reason would happen to fail, and we still have God, we still have the people He's put in our lives.
And God gave us this group too. So even if, like I told Myles the other week, even if we were to never have another one of these again, like we stopped last week and we never had another one, like last week was our last one, I would just be so thankful for what God gave us and how He set this group up, and just how amazing, like, the work that He did in all of us. And yeah, I am excited to see, just to keep going forward and keep doing it. And obviously, it's like, you get a little sketchy because we all do like fall sports and we all do school activities during the fall, and it's really busy season for school. But so obviously it might slow down, get week to week and thing once those start up. But I'm just really excited to see. I got sidetracked. I guess I never finished telling him. I love telling people why I'm happy for God.
Yeah. Don't we all?
How are you happy all the time? Because I have God. That's why.
Also, like, I have another question whenever you're done with your point. So just for everybody, it's like, okay, since we're all here already, it's like, what is one thing you like about the other people here, like spiritually, that you admire? It's like, I already kind of talked about Trey, of how he was obedient from the start. He knew what he needed to do, and he did it. And it's something you don't see very often, and the way he's grown.
Trey's want for God.
Yeah.
It's one thing I admire heavily. His testimony and how much he strives and how much he cares about doing the right things in the Christian walk.
Yeah. Kaiden, you kind of already pointed it out yourself, but like your positive attitude, even in times where it's hard, it's you're always positive. You're always willing to step up for things when you're needed, and it's not something obviously you see a lot. Obviously, we're not normal. We're definitely not normal teenagers at all, and I'm proud of that.
I'm proud of it. Yeah. I think we should all be.
Yeah. Means we're doing something right. But your willingness to step up when you're needed, and your willingness to help people, and always kind of you're selfless in a way, and it's something I also admire. So, I mean, I've grown up with both of you, so.
No, I thought you went to Belleville, Myles.
Yeah, according to Trey, never existed until last year.
Elementary school. I'm sorry.
Went to elementary school for. Oh no, you weren't here till 3rd grade, right?
Yeah.
It's only 3 years, but 2 years, but.
But I love Dettmer, for one. I just love how open you are with everyone at school.
Yes.
Like you have you have the small friend group that's like you're close with, but also you're friends with
everybody.
In the school.
It's like I see you talking.
Knows you, and you're talking to everybody.
I see you talking to people. I'm like, I don't even know who that is. But he's like best friends with them. I'm like, okay.
It's the key. I say it all the time. Literally, just talking to just trying to be friends with like everybody is the biggest thing. Like it's so great if you just go through the hallways and you just try to be friends. Like I'm not talking about going up to random people and being like, hey, how are you?
Not that kind of.
Not that kind.
You're a lot like your mom. I don't. Obviously, they don't know who your mom is, but you're a lot like your mom.
Oh yeah, that's probably where I got it from. Honestly,
probably.
Thank you, Mom, for giving me.
Shout out to Ann Dettmer.
Myles, I just love how knowledgeable in your drive for all this is. Like you're willing to make a lesson every single week. You're willing to step out there and start this whole thing. Like you started this podcast idea, you started a youth group, and you're just so knowledgeable. Like you always send me your playlist with all these songs and artists I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh wow, this song's really good. Let me add this to my playlist.
I got bangers, Trey. You got you.
He does have bangers.
I know you do.
Yeah, I would say
Christian playlist, just to be clear.
I would say the same thing, Myles, about forever. As long as I've been best friends with you, it's always been like, it's been hard to stop you from doing things, because it's always just like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. I find myself anymore, not really, but when we were younger, I would find myself all the time like, okay, Myles, like, let's calm down. And like, we got
I've been
time.
told that.
And you can even see it now. I'm like, yesterday I was like, why don't we just wait till tomorrow when we can do it? And you're like, no, I want to do this like right now. And that has given you, like, as much as is like sometimes we say like, okay, I get it, but we got time. That has given you such a gift of, like Trey said, giving you such a gift of you started the Bible study. You had the podcast idea, and you don't just have the ideas. You're not like Hanson. You don't just have the ideas.
Cliff jumping, guys.
But you have the ideas and you act on them. And
I think
without other people's support, you act on it, and you have the drive to make those things happen.
Yeah, I think procrastination, you don't get anything done. Like, if you procrastinate and question things, it's like you're not going to ever live life. So it's like, I'm not really adventurous in a way. When I have ideas, I want to see if they work. And if they don't, okay.
Yeah, that is what you are. You have ideas and you do it. If it doesn't work, okay. If it does, good. And that's just how it is.
Yeah,
I love that.
I've always had a problem with like starting something, but never really like finishing it or seeing it all the way through. I kind of just like give up or lose interest in it. But you don't do that often, Myles. I mean, you started D group and it's still going, and we're having our ups and downs, but we're still going at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just kind of acting. I mean, the thing is too, it's like I'm trying to determine how the Holy Spirit speaks to me, because obviously he's not going to be like, oh, thus saith the Lord. Like, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be small things. So it's like, I don't want to like miss something that he's trying to say to me too. So it's like another thing. It's like, what if this is something that God could really use? So that's kind of why I wanted to start this, because I'm like, people could actually benefit from this. This could help grow the kingdom.
Yeah. That's
So it's like, that's why I kind of wanted to do this, because I'm like, okay, maybe this is one of God's callings for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
if
think
anyone watches these videos.
If anyone, hey, I don't
think
care if they don't.
The
It's
Bible
okay.
study. I think the Bible study idea, was better than the wiffle ball strike zone idea that we did once at your house when all you wanted to do the entire day I was over was, let's make a wiffle ball strike zone, guys.
Wait, when is this?
It was like 2 years ago.
Really? I made 3.
I just remember I was at your house and I was just trying to do stuff, and the entire day you were like, let's make that strike zone now. Let's make that strike zone now. I'm like, Myles, we got time, dude. But I think
2 years ago I made. I don't know. I think I know what you're talking about, but I made 2 the week after.
Yeah. And I think the Bible study clearly is one of the greatest ideas and one of the greatest things we've ever done. And then originally the podcast, I was kind of like,
I could tell.
what are we doing, guys?
You always, when I have ideas, you always question it. It's like, okay, is this actually going to work? And that's something like how we like work together sometimes.
I've learned
but
a lot.
Questioned it too,
That's
because it
so
was
true.
very
Yeah,
like,
me and Trey were talking about it.
it was very abrupt. Like, it was kind of just out of the blue, like, hey guys, we should start a podcast. The next day you had a YouTube channel, a Spotify thing.
Yeah, me and Trey were talking about it. It was like, guys, let's make a podcast. You could read the group chat. It was so hilarious because me and Trey are just kind of sitting there listening to everything. And you and Tristan are like, okay, let's make a podcast. It's like, title, got it. The thumbnail or whatever, the
YouTube
the
URL,
picture,
or
like
the logo,
the logo, got it.
Yeah.
Spotify made, YouTube channel made, TikTok made.
You got to get things done.
And we did all of this. You and Tristan did all of this in like a 5-minute span. And me and Trey are just like,
I remember you
Are you
came
sure
up
this
to
is
me
like
like
an
a couple
impulse?
days after, and you guys are you actually gonna do the podcast?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you
why
didn't
it
even
was-
sound very happy about it.
it was so like, wait, are we actually doing this? But I think that's why we work so well together sometimes, because you're so, let's do this, and I'm so, wait, let's think about this.
Yeah.
It creates like a good blend. And I've learned over the years,
And
over
Trey-
the weeks.
Trey like helps too, because it's like you're another opinion on it, because sometimes 2 opinions isn't like enough.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful having obviously all you guys. So
Yeah, I think, but it's grown on me. And now that we're actually doing it,
I don't know where it's gonna go, but
I like the podcast.
if you're looking back in this video, when you get just kidding.
When we make it big, when we get a deal with ESPN.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're the real
it's
ones.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
And we'll see what happens.
We will. I don't think we should give up early. I think we should keep at it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And plus, even if
Yeah, we have something to look back on. It's like this
Yeah.
isn't cool.
even if nobody watches it, I think it's just really cool getting together every week and doing it.
yeah, that's
It's
fair.
like when you're a little kid and you make a YouTube channel, but like we're actually having fun while we do it, and
We're not
like
gonna
we're
talk
actually
about
making a
We're
purpose.
not gonna talk about the few YouTube channels I made, but
Sharp
One
outdoors.
day- One day in the future, if the world hasn't ended by then, our kids might look back on these videos and being like, "That's my dad."
That's my dad.
they're a bunch of weirdos.
Go to school and show all their little kid friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or we
Dad
could,
was
or
on
we
this
could look back
podcast.
on it and be like, "Oh my, why did we do this? This was so stupid."
I mean, I don't
think.
I don't think it'll be stupid.
No, I don't
mean,
think that'll happen.
especially if we keep the focus in mind.
Yeah.
I don't
Of
think,
God.
Yeah. Again,
just talk about sports
Seek
all
first the kingdom. Don't know where it could go. So.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Trey, do you have you brought a couple questions. Do you think we have enough time to get into those, or should we just wait?
Well, one of the questions is, well, actually, they're both pretty simple. The first one is, I keep hearing in songs about Jericho. I know it was like a city, but what exactly happened to it?
So I forget which. So pretty much, I forget.
City
I'm
got
not good at
destroyed.
names. The city got destroyed. So God told they were in the desert. I know that, and this is a very familiar story of Sunday school. But I'm terrible with names. So God pretty much told them march around the city 7 times. I think they're trying to get to the Holy Land, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Moses, and after he freed them.
Yeah, see, like I
Is it-
didn't go to a.
Is it Moses or is it somebody?
I don't see like I didn't go. I did, but
See, this just shows we have stuff to learn. So.
when I didn't go to like a bunch of little kid like Sunday schools, especially
I did.
growing up. Trey, yeah, I know you didn't for a fact. Trey, growing up in the other church because my dad's a pastor and we moved churches like 7 years ago now, I think it was, or 8 years ago maybe, or no, I think this year marks 10 years that we've been there. And I like at the old church I did. That was when I was really little. And then at our new church, there a large amount of the population is older. So the only kids in the church was like me, and that was basically it.
I always remember you telling me that because it's like
time.
I invite you to youth group. You're like, oh, that's
So yeah, youth group was never really like a big thing, and like child services were never really a big thing. We kind of were just stuck in the adult stuff from a young age. So I do know like the main stories, but I didn't learn a bunch of like the core stories that you hear about in like Sunday school when you're a kid all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I was talking about when I made the analogy of swimming. Like the shallows is like, oh, you're a kid, you're going to all these kid stuff, and you're learning about these stories. I kind of just like
Trey just head
Yeah.
first into 12 feet.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do know, again, terrible with names. God told them to march around the city 7 times so they can get through. And then at the end, they're supposed to blow their horns. So they did. It was like 7 days to march around a certain amount of times. And then at the last one, they blew their horns and the city came crumbling down so they can get through.
Yeah, isn't there a song about that?
Yeah. There's a lot of songs. I remember singing it in Sunday school with cardboard bricks, and we knocked the wall down. It
Walls
was
are
great.
supposed to be crumbling down when we're talking about Jericho.
I remember one song in the lyrics where you have the shout that makes Jericho fall down.
It's probably in my playlist.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And we definitely sang it here in this church. I was thinking that and being like, wait, what's Jericho? Is that like a person or?
Yeah, these are the things we can talk about. Like, obviously, my memory. I've been more into the theological stuff rather than the stories lately.
I'm looking it up.
Okay. Jericho song. We'll play it into your mic or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, it's taking 10 years.
We are at an hour 20 right now, just so you know. So we're
Like just
max 20 or max 2 hours. Yeah. So.
Dettmer, Myles was actually pressuring me to get 2 questions, and now I'm not even gonna get to the 2 questions.
It's fine. I think
Literally, how I got this question was I looked up most common Bible stories.
Very original.
I don't know that.
Realize like most podcasts you had to bring 2 questions in for the people we interview.
I like.
We've done your 2
I think we've been doing
questions,
great.
and then-
Like just talking about
Did
stuff.
my 1 question.
Exactly.
You only had one. We've only
I
done
have 2.
questions. Guys, I didn't come with any questions.
We told you.
But
We came with
still,
stories.
like,
That's what we came
even
with.
if we didn't, look at how much we've talked. We've just spent an hour and 20 minutes talking about stuff. So it's like, I think we find ways to talk about God either way.
Yeah, especially with like if we bring people in, it's like, oh, your story.
Yeah.
We're gonna have questions about that.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I'll talk to you separately, Trey, about that story. So what was your second question?
What does God think about animals? Like, did he just like I know.
Nice religious question there.
I mean, he created them.
Well, no, I was just kind of thinking about like the pets you have and like how much we love them. Like, does God love them the same? Because I know He created them for
I don't know.
humans to rule over them. Like, was that it? Just for
Well, obviously, we're created in the image of God, and animals are not. So, obviously, He doesn't. I don't know how to justify that because I'm not God.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. I feel like that's just not something we've really talked about a lot.
It's not even something that I thought about, honestly.
I mean, what did he say? He took 2 of each on Noah's Ark.
He cared enough about them to save them from
And obviously
a worldwide flood.
So he cares enough about it. Yeah, I don't know.
He cares enough to even make them in the first place. So, I mean, that should say something there too.
Mm-hmm. I think he made every animal to serve a purpose. You know, whether it's
except hornets or wasps.
Yeah.
What do
Whether
they
it's
serve?
I don't know, but whether it's for food or for
creation got cursed, so maybe there's weeds and thorns that came from it, so maybe that was just a result. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I'm not God.
yeah.
My second question was, how do you view God? It's a very personal question, I think.
It's tough.
How do you? I mean, it could go multiple ways. How do you view him like physically, emotionally, spiritually? That's up to you. How do you want to answer that?
Well, with how I view him, it's kind of like the drive you guys said I had. It's kind of because of how I think about him. Like I think about him as this all-powerful being that can do anything, but still loves us each individually. And he gave me all this in my life, and I can't go worship him once a week, pray, talk to him. I can't do any of that. Like I should do that.
Yeah.
I should want a connection with someone like him.
Yeah.
That loves me so much.
I mean, what they say about, I forget what the quote is, about how, like, he knows everything and yet knows, I forget what it was, but he knows everything and yet knows every one of us. I forget what the saying is. I forget what the saying is, but it basically says he knows everything about everything, but knows and loves each of us a lot is what the saying is essentially. But that kind of strikes me too, Trey, like how I view him as like just this. I can't put a human, like you can try to use human words to put it into, to make it easier to understand, but like I can't describe God. It's just like obviously, yeah, the Bible uses words to make him, I don't know, do I look at it as something on a throne, or there's got to be something like Revelations,
I mean,
right?
It's weird because it's like, if you think, like, what does an apple look like? You probably have a picture of it right now in your brain. It's like, what does God look like? You can't comprehend that.
Yeah. Like you can.
So it's like I literally cannot have. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It can't comprehend something that's always been and never was.
You literally physically cannot, and it's
so crazy to think.
It's crazy. It's like, just think about that. Think about an apple. What does an apple look like? Think about God. You can't. And it's just astounding to think that God you can't even imagine loves us.
Yeah.
Individually, personally, on a relationship level. That is, holy cow.
Yeah, that's something to think about.
I mean, we talked about this actually this morning in Sunday school. It's like, oh, you can think about what God looks like or who he is. But it's like the Bible, God literally described himself, and it was the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children to the third and fourth generation. So it's like, this is in Exodus 34. But, so it's a God who is gracious. Like, he created us in one way to be without sin, and we messed it up. Messed up his creation.
Yeah.
And he's gracious.
And he always loves us. Like the word steadfast, that was like the main word in ours.
Today, tomorrow, and forever. And the past. It's like continually, he loves everybody. Like even people who aren't Christians as much as he loves people who are. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, what was the word?
And then that brings up, like, why do we not like people?
Yeah, what was the examples that were brought up this morning? It's like, wouldn't you think?
I don't know what that was.
Interesting. Wouldn't you think, like, God wouldn't love, like, I don't know, like a rapist or something? It's like, but like, you want him to love you, but it's like, you can't imagine God loving him, but it's like, we all sin. Obviously, some sin is worse than others here on earth, but like, sin is sin in the end. Like, before God, like, you're still going to be accountable for all the stuff you've done, even if it's not to that extreme.
Yeah.
I also feel like some people don't really understand that all sin in God's eyes is the same, whether it's murder or just...
Yeah, I think it was in Sermon on the Mount where it talks about, it's like, if you hate your brother, you're guilty of murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, when I was first learning on this, I just found that so hard to believe that he just views it all the same.
I mean, in a way,
some people try to like justify that, like, oh, this person's sin is worse than mine, so I'm somewhat guilty.
Obviously, like, sin on earth is going to have different effects. It's like, you're going to go to jail longer if you kill somebody rather than if you rob somebody. So there's going to be different effects here on earth, but it's still wrong in the end.
Yeah.
So
And it also it also just reminds us just how far we are from just ourselves being good enough for God. Like without the grace of God and everything.
Yeah, it's like
just how like far away how far away we are from God.
Yeah.
Everything, like how we're not even in a million universes close to how
More
good
than
God.
that.
Yeah, like an unfathomable amount.
I mean, we're trying to, like you say, like millions and millions of universes, but like universes were created by him.
I know.
The word million was created by him.
So imagine that,
Trying
like,
to scale everything
he
down.
spoke
Yeah,
into
you can't.
existence everything, and he was before existence. It's
I know.
like, holy
Like, could
crap.
you think about that? Like,
The word
I
existence came from
it's-
him.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so weird to have everything that you know has a beginning and an end on Earth, and everything.
But
has a
every
beginning and
beginning
end.
has a cause.
But
It's this pattern.
oh,
It's
yeah.
like, I mean, it's like if you have a beginning, there's a cause to the beginning. It's like if there's
Cause and effect.
yeah, exactly. It's
Can't
like you
have
see
an
that in the
effect
natural
without a
world.
cause.
So it's like it relates to God in a way too. So
and then just God, there was never a beginning.
I know
He just
was,
always was.
Like he's just so
and always
one
will be.
thing that's
Yeah.
just above any sort of law or of physics that we make up.
Yeah.
He's just above
Like
it
you
all.
just keep going.
Who's
back
the one
in
that
time.
created that whole?
Just go back and back and back and back forever and forever.
Like you could
And
literally get into
there's
this.
never a
yeah,
beginning.
You're never gonna find the end of God. It's like it's hard to fathom. Honestly,
Yeah, and heaven for eternity.
eternity.
Like, are you serious?
It's like we have
Like-
goals in life. It's like, oh, because we only have a certain amount of time here. But it's like in heaven, it's like you're not gonna have to worry about
Yeah,
that.
you have to. The human side of you for a minute when you think about heaven, it's like, well, but I mean, wait a minute, forever? Like, don't you think you're gonna get like, for after infinity amount of years? I feel like I'm gonna want to like do something else or leave or something.
You're in the
but then you're in
the presence of
God.
literally God.
Your
that
maker.
I
It's
am.
He says that you're never gonna get tired of heaven. Every single day is gonna be a million times better than the day that you get to the beach, or that excitement that you
Oh,
get
yeah.
on Christmas morning. It's
It's interesting. Like we don't know what that's gonna look like either, but we just
Yeah.
know we're gonna be in the presence of God. So there's
Yeah.
nothing better.
yeah. It's your human brain cannot fathom just how good it is to feel that feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting too how we are created in His image, but we're still set apart because none can be like Him.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Whenever
it's
I-
crazy to think about.
Whenever I think about forever, for some reason I always think of like movies like vampires who live on forever, but it's never really forever. It's just until like the earth ends.
Yeah.
But that still has an end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
But heaven and God won't.
I know.
Exactly.
Which is why it's kind of scary.
It is.
Like I said, but then you got to think, well, how great is it? Like we don't know how great the feeling is of being in heaven. So.
We feel the presence of God here on earth sometimes, and it's like that feeling's great, and then you're gonna have a feeling infinitely better than that when you're literally in His presence,
Infinitely.
and it's hard to even fathom.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. You can't. So it's just, you got to wait, walk the Christian walk, and then we'll see when we get there, I guess.
We must still live in the walk and not just go through the motions.
Yep, going through the motions is not. You're not in the walk. You're not. That's it.
Walking the walk. Yeah.
There's a real relationship aspect that you can't get from going through the motions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole reason why we're created, for a relationship with God. Literally, why He created Adam and Eve was to be with Him in the Garden of Eden. Like, and then they ruined that by disobeying, and it's just wow.
Yep.
Why? Like, why does He want us? We're broken vessels. But He literally sacrificed His Son for us. What are we worth? Nothing. We've messed up.
But it's okay.
But Jesus.
That's okay because we have God in the end, ultimately.
Yeah.
You know, He's here. So that's what I always say. It doesn't matter in the end because there's always God will be with you and direct you if you trust Him and listen to Him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very
Well-
much agree. All right, I think we're about good. All right. You guys want to pray out and then wrap it up?
That'd be something cool to do at the end of all our podcasts.
All right.
I think that was a great ending. I think that was a great ending to our first
was.
podcast.
God reigns.
Yeah.
All
We'll have to
right.
come up with a nice title.
So, do you want to pray? Or do you want me to pray? I don't care.
You can pray for the first podcast.
Okay.
Because this was his thing, guys. By the way, so
All right.
he gets the credit for.
I don't really
this
need
blows
credit.
up. Well,
if it blows.
God gets the credit. But-
Okay. Dear Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity and this potential blessing of this podcast and what it could do for others. Lord, I pray that you can be the main focus of it and that it could just grow into something great that you can use for your kingdom. Lord, I don't know where it's going to go. None of us do, but I pray that we can be faithful and seek your kingdom first. And just whoever's listening to this right now, I pray that you can just touch them and be with them, Lord. Know that you love them no matter what they're going through right now and that you always love them. I just thank you, Lord, for everything you do. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.
Man.
Peace out.